Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Turnaround Coach, where we come to you, or I come to you each week, because I do have a business partner back there behind me on the couch. You can see him kind of chilling out back there. But where I come to you each week and share a little bit of information that will help you in making the transformation that you need in your organization. This is work that I truly love, and I really realized it. I think I shared my story with you before, but if not, I left the principalship at the end of May this year. I wrapped up the school year, I wrapped up all the things I needed, and I gave myself permission to walk away and really build a business that I am super proud of. And in the midst of doing so, I was really going to be focused on coaching women to build a life that they love. Now, I've done a lot of work on myself personally. I've gone through many reinventions in life. That's what I like to call them, instead of crisis, right? And in doing so, I've really learned some great ways on how to do it quicker, better, faster. And that was my plan. I was going to share that with people. However, once I stepped away, I got about a week out and I sat here in my office right here in this beautiful little space. And I was like, something is telling me that that's not the work I'm supposed to do. There was some kind of calling, and I truly believe in that. There was something calling me to take the work that I did in the schools and bring it to other organizations, whether it be a school or a small business, whatever it is, bring it to you in a way where, just like I experience, where not only do I do the work with you, but I teach you how to do the work on your own, because my goal is that you don't need me forever, that we work together, get you back on track, or get you on track to meet the goals that you've set. It could just be scaling to the next level, but that you actually then could utilize the processes on your own in the future if you ever had the need. That's my dream. That's my goal. And that was my calling that day. And so that's when I made a pivot. And I knew that going into that, I was really going to want to bring great value to you. And that's how this channel, this little I don't even know if it's a podcast, this YouTube series, I guess, was developed because I wanted you to have these little pieces of information that could help you, because maybe you're not in a place that you need to do a whole reinvention in your organization. Maybe you're just in a place that you need a little tweak here or there. And that also is important to be able to support as you work towards your goals and dreams. So that's how I got to you right here on my YouTube channel. Having said that, last week I talked a little bit about some different transformation processes, like focusing on the really big things first, not trying to focus on everything that you want to change, but really narrowing in on those things that are going to have the biggest impact. This week, I want to talk to you about something just a tiny bit different, but I call it really breaking organizational norms. Because when you're making a transformation, here's the thing. So many people think, if I have a different goal, but I do things the same way, I'm going to get the different results because I have a different goal. And I have to be honest with you, that's not how this works, right? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result really is not going to work out very well for you. It's like being on that hamster wheel. You're not going to go anywhere. And so one of the biggest things when I went into each of the schools, and I vividly remember this part in particular because it was probably the most challenging. I've shared my story before that I was not the principal previously when the school had gotten to a level where it was, right? When I went in and did the turnarounds, I was hired new to come onto the campus. Has its pros for sure, but also it has some cons. One of the cons was that I did get to hire some new staff at each of the locations that I was at. Some a little more than others. It was a little harder in Iowa because of unions and different types of things that I had to deal with. However, I was able to bring on some new people. When you bring on new people, you're bringing on people that are going to get in with your mission and vision, right? It's so much easier to be able to do that. But when you're actually going in someplace, or maybe you've been there, you were there through the entire process, and now you want to scale, or you need to make some change because you're in a place where you're not generating what you want to generate in your organization, and you have to make this change. Changing existing norms is very difficult. Now, some norms you want to keep for sure, right? Because number one, some may be working really, really well. Number two, you might want to keep some that aren't necessarily working great, but they're not being detrimental. And I'm going to talk to you about why. But then you've got those things going on. Those, this is how we do this around here kind of thing, that is totally hindering your process, your progress. It's really keeping you playing small, or it's keeping you from scaling to that next level, or it's keeping you in a place where you're not going to be able to sustain your business any longer. Those are the ones you have to focus on first. So remember last week, we said you really got to focus on those big ticket items that are going to have the biggest impact. Some of these changing of norms that are really detrimental to your business, they're the big ticket items, okay? So let's talk about this for a minute. I mentioned you're going to really go into this deep dive analysis, right? When you're getting ready to make some change, whether it's big change, little change, you want to know exactly what the state of your organization is. And I recommend that doing that at least once a year anyway, whether you're planning on change or not. You need to know exactly where you stand. Now, a school, we're going to do that in the summer as we prepare for the upcoming school year. However, in a business, you might do that here coming up in the next couple of months, November, December, because you're going to want to be sure that you know how you're going to start the next calendar year, right? Or start your next whatever. But as a small business, you might also be thinking, oh, my anniversary date is coming. I started mine in May, at the end of May into the 1st of June. So that would be like, okay, I've been a year in. How am I doing? What's happening? Okay. Regardless of the timeline, you're going to want to do that at least one time a year. And you really want to be real with yourself. And when you are being real and you start to look at what's working well, you want to keep those working well. You want to get rid of those things that are not, and so, or change them, right? And so you're going to do the same thing when you're looking at your culture of your organization. That is this is how we do things around here. Those are the norms. Those are the things that everybody just expects from Sherry Dixon Consulting, right? So for example, everybody knows that at Sherry Dixon Consulting, the first thing that I'm going to make sure that I do is that I'm going to release new recordings every Monday. That is my process. That is my system. You can expect that on Mondays, you're going to see turnaround, and you're going to see my teacher not podcast, but my teacher YouTube. On Tuesdays, you're going to see my podcast or hear my podcast because it's been recorded or set up on Monday. And then on Thursdays, you're going to get leadership lessons because I do the recordings on Monday. Everybody who knows me knows that I record on Mondays. That's just my thing. Then everybody who knows me knows that on Thursdays, I meet with my business coach. I do some wrap-up work and make sure that I'm starting to wind the week down with the big work that I need to do. Everybody who knows me knows that on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, those are my days for networking, reaching out. Those are the times and days that you're going to see me maybe out in the community, that kind of thing. In the evenings, you're also going to know, if you know me, you're going to know that I have specific things scheduled for specific evenings. So that's kind of a normal set schedule. And people who know me well know that on Saturdays, I have a very kind of set schedule as well. Knowing that, those are my norms, right? People also know that before you come on board with me, I'm not going to just give you a link to sign up and start paying me money. We're going to have a consultation call. I call it a discovery call, and we're going to talk about your business. I'm not going to take you on if I don't think I can help you, and vice versa. You're not going to take me on if you don't think my services are going to give you what you need, because money is being exchanged. That's a big deal. I know that people know one of my processes when I want to do a podcast and have a host, or have a host on my talk show. You're going to go through a little set system with me. You're going to fill out some forms. We're going to talk, get kind of things organized, and then we're going to do the recordings. People also know that every time something is posted, this is the way I'm going to advertise it, that kind of thing. Those are my systems, right? Just like me, even though I'm a one-man show or a one-woman show, you're going to have systems in your organization as well. And it's when those systems are not being most productive and you need to make the changes, that's when the work starts to get hard. So we know good things we're going to keep on board. Things that are not being detrimental to you, things that are maybe not necessarily moving the needle super fast, but your people expect it, they count on it, they're accustomed to it. And you know deep down inside in your gut that if you were to remove that or change it, it's probably going to cause more problems than actually keeping it in place. Those are the types of things you're just going to leave alone as well. Okay. For example, I had a system where we did dismissal a certain way every single year. And then the pandemic happened. And once the pandemic happened a couple of years ago, we had to make some changes because we had to keep, students and staff so many feet apart and that kind of thing. So I brought on a new system. I'm going to be honest, I didn't like the system. I didn't like it at all. It was very expensive. It caused us to delay dismissal by about 7 minutes, which doesn't seem like a lot. But when you're talking 7 minutes where you don't have staff to help supervise students because their day is over, it is a lot. And it was breeding problems. So what ended up happening is, instead of all students that went home in the cars would come down to a specific area and wait with their groups, they stayed in their classrooms until they were called. Well, if the app wasn't working, the internet wasn't working, something wasn't working, it was storming or whatever, or maybe the parent didn't have their card, so we knew, whatever, it delayed the student from getting from point A to point B, which held up the entire car line. What it also did is it gave students opportunities to linger along the way. Now, of course, I had people stationed throughout the building. However, it still happened. They might have walked by a former teacher and they said, hey, and the teacher starts talking to them. And then they stop to talk, not like they were doing something malicious, but it was causing us to have delay. Once the pandemic rules and regulations were over, I wanted to go back to our old system. However, teachers really liked the new system. They really liked the new system. It wasn't moving the needle for me in a great way, but after using it for a year, we did get a little more efficient with the timing of everything. And so I had to make a hard decision. And meeting with my team and talking about that in particular, that's when I decided it wasn't worth fighting that battle, that we would continue with that system. However, maybe I could adjust something else that would make that a little more efficient, if that makes sense. So those are the types of things that you're going to have to do some judgment calls, but you really are going to have to say, will the stress of change outweigh just keeping it in place when it's not being detrimental to your organization? But most importantly, we want to talk today about those things that need to change, and they need to change fast. They're the big ticket items. But I promise you, somehow, some way, your people are not going to see it the exact same way you do. You are the leader. You are the business owner. You're the person in charge, right? You have the big picture. You can look in at things differently than people that are in the thick of the work. They just don't, they're not going to see it the same way. And so really making sure that when you're about to do something where you are changing these norms, you have to be very transparent about why. And you have to be able to really show them very objective data. So for example, when I came on board to this last school, I walked in for like a little review the spring beforehand, and I knew one of the first things that needed to change was how students left classrooms throughout the day and traveled in the halls, because they were everywhere. If Johnny asked to go to the restroom, instead of going to the restroom, Johnny was going to room A, B, C, the office, stopping by the library, then maybe eventually getting to the restroom, missing out on class for at least 17 to 18, maybe 20 minutes, and in places that nobody knew where he was. What if we would have had an emergency? And even I saw situations where the teacher didn't even remember Johnny went to the restroom because it had been so long, right? I would get that. I would understand that. So that was something that had to change right away. However, not every single person understood why that was a problem. And with the new system that I brought in place, it was going to require a little bit of different thinking, different kind of work, better work, smarter work, but different work. And at the moment when we were making this change, they didn't see it as better, smarter work. They saw it as, we did wrong. You think we're wrong. You're coming in to make change. You're changing how we do things. We're fine. You get what I'm saying? So I had to really stop and make sure that when I presented this change, I presented it with, here's what's happening. And it was real data. I needed to spend that time collecting that data, finding that data, using that data to be able to get people to understand the importance of why something needed to change. Get on board with, okay, here's a new process. And then I had to make sure when they heard the new process, they knew that I was going to support them through learning that process. So I shared data with them. I gave them the supports that they needed to learn the new process. And then I gave them a lot of motivation along the way when they were using the new process. I had to purposefully, in my schedule, write down, go monitor, blah, 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 and blah, 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 to make sure they're using the new process and point out great things they're doing with it. Did it take me work? Absolutely. Was it good work? Absolutely. Did it help with that change process? Absolutely. And actually, if I think about that one in particular, the change occurred faster than what I thought it was going to, because they felt like, oh yeah, I can do this. It's much more efficient. And somebody's recognizing me for the work that I'm doing, because it's the right work to do. So those are just some things that I wanted to talk to you today, guys, because change, when you're talking about an organization, can be very, very difficult. Big change, little change, it doesn't matter. It can be very difficult. And how we work with our people and how we prioritize the work that we have to do, and then how we actually carry out that work, is just as important as the factors that we're going to change. The supports, the empowerment, the training we provide, and the grace that we give our people to ask questions, make mistakes, and know that they're still going to be supported along the way is big. And each week coming up, I'm going to continue to just use each little piece of that change process and talk to you about ways you can do it better, faster, stronger. Of course, this is free to you, and I love coming on board and sharing this with you every week. But if you really are serious about taking your organization to the next level, whether you're here and you need to move here, or you're here and you want to get here, that's what I do. That's the work that I'm passionate about. That's the work that lights me up. And that's the work that I know I can bring to you and help you get there better, faster, stronger. So I want you to reach out to me, send me a message. You can find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Sherry Dixon Consulting, or you can email me and I'll include my email in the show notes, so that you can get yourself at a place where you feel good. Again, it's almost the middle of October and we're rounding out 2023. We either want to hit these goals now, it's about a 3-month process, so we can still do it, or we're starting to get to a place where we need to really get a good plan so that we can really know that we're going to be hitting 2024 strong and really making all of these goals and dreams happen, because nobody starts their organization just to be okay. Nobody's wearing the shirt that says, I'm the okayest business. Everybody is striving for excellence in their business, and that's exactly what I want to do to help you along the way. All right, until next time, I will see you right back here on Turnaround.